Hi, and welcome back to E's Bookshelf. This is a podcast about my bookshelf, which includes historical fiction, realistic fiction, science fiction, fantasy, and mystery books. I'm your host, Alicia Driver. So, in today's episode, I'll be discussing the book Perfectly Famous by Emily Liebert. And this podcast does have spoilers, so if you don't like spoilers, then I suggest you skip this one. I think this book is important because it talks about what it's like dealing with rebellious teens, what it's like to deal with betrayal and divorce and disconnecting from society, but also reconnecting with old friends. I can't say this book relates to a lot of people, but I definitely know people who have had these issues. So, anyways, Ward is a famous author, and she is at a book signing when she is told that her daughter was abducted and murdered, and since then, she has been in hiding. She disconnected from society and attempted to disappear and be unbothered. I will admit, sometimes I get in the mood to drop everything and move to a new place and have a fresh start. I have done that before, but I haven't 100% disconnected with people like this author has. So, Bree is a recently divorced journalist, and she is determined to tell Ward's story. Only Ward doesn't want her story to be told. Along the way, Bree faces challenges in her day-to-day life, like dealing with a rebellious 16-year-old daughter and trying to jump back into dating life. And with all this chaos, she still is trying to find Ward. She finds Ward's brother, only he doesn't know where she is either. So Bree and Evan, Ward's brother, they begin to spend a lot of time together in hopes of finding the famous lost author. And Bree has been going on dates with a kind man named Scott, but Evan is showing romantic interests in Bree, and she becomes confused. So while all this is happening, we see very little of Ward's life, and she has reconnected with some old high school friends, and we learn a little bit about her past life. We also learn that her daughter, Stevie, is not actually dead. They have been in hiding for 8 months, and Stevie is the same age as Bree's daughter, Chloe. Bree crosses boundaries due to her determination, and she does research and finds out that Ward bought a property. She goes to that property and sees a house. In the window, she sees a silhouette, which is too small to be Ward. So Bree knocks on the door and finds Ward's stepmother and asks to speak to Ward, but she is told to leave. Bree receives a phone call about her daughter and she rushes home. She also received a threatening text message telling her to stop and drop her investigation about Ward. When Bree arrives home, she finds Evan in her home, and Bree is surprised, but she doesn't feel threatened yet, until Evan throws her against the wall and ties her up and threatens her. He reveals that he is actually Ward's stepbrother and has always been intimidated by her, yet in love with her. He gave Ward the idea for her first book, and he was furious when she received all the credit and when she refused to love him the way he loved her. Luckily, Bree had a date with Scott that night, and he receives a strange call from her canceling their date, and he grows suspicious and shows up at her house with police. Bree makes as much noise as possible, and when she sees the police, everything goes black. Next thing you know, she's in the hospital. Evan had shot her in the shoulder, barely missing her heart. And a year later, Bree and Ward wrote a book together, and Chloe and Stevie become good friends. Bree and Scott are now together, and Ward has reconnected with her high school sweetheart. Evan is in a psychiatric hospital, as he has been in and out most of his childhood. And everything seems to be falling into place until at Bree's book signing, she is in her car and she receives another scary text message. She hears a big boom and turns around to see that the bookstore is on fire with Ward and Stevie inside. And Alex, Ward's high school sweetheart, is standing outside looking at Bree with a grin on his face. So this book definitely keeps you on edge, and it keeps you asking questions. Like, I really want to know what happens to Ward and Stevie, and if Alex and Evan are somehow in contact or talking or even friends. And as of now, there is no second book for this story, and I also really want to know if Chloe is still rebellious, or why the fire takes place a year later. Like, how come it doesn't happen as soon as Ward is out of hiding? Or if Evan and Ward ever make amends, or if Evan ever gets better, or if he ever learns to accept it. And I really want to know what the author was hoping to accomplish by leaving readers on a cliffhanger, because typically cliffhangers lead to a second book. And personally, I hate cliffhangers because it feels like I can't close the book until the story is over. Like, once I start a book, I have to finish it, even if I don't like the book. But it's not even about the book, it's about the story. But I guess curiosity does drive people to read more, and curiosity isn't always a bad thing. I did research this author, and she has a blog, and she has written 7 books, all of them fiction, and most of them starring women. And 3 of them are about complex friendships, and another one is about someone who was wronged by her idol and will stop at nothing to receive vengeance. And it seems like most of her books star middle-aged women. I can't say that I relate to this book too much because I'm not middle-aged and I don't have kids. And although I have felt like dropping everything and moving, it's for completely different reasons than Ward. I don't want to do that because I feel like I'm being threatened or anything of that nature. I just often feel like this simply because I'm overthinking. I was once a rebellious teen, but there are plenty of rebellious teens, and although there were many sad things in this book, I still enjoyed reading it because of the surprises and the romance, and a lot of it made me laugh. Like, the dynamic between Bree and her daughter made me laugh, and it did make me happy knowing that Stevie, Ward's daughter, was not actually dead. I would definitely recommend this book to anyone who loves mystery and putting puzzle pieces together. Like, I never expected Evan to be who he is, so that definitely surprised me. And I thought the title was perfect because a lot of people, they expect famous people to be happy and have a perfect and great life, when in reality that's usually not the case. I guess this book also shows how, in a lot of cases, people have to cheat to get to the top. I guess this is why the saying is, it's lonely at the top. And Ward not giving Evan credit was definitely wrong, but that's no excuse for his behavior. But if you're the type of person who hates cliffhangers, then maybe this book isn't for you. But at the same time, I also hate cliffhangers, yet I really like this book. So if you want to ask me any questions about a future podcast, or if you have any book recommendations, you can email me at elisiadriver@gmail.com, and that's ELLYSIADRIVER@gmail.com, or follow me on Instagram, which is Alicia Driver. And also check out Beyond the Book with Julie for author interviews on YouTube, and follow her on Instagram, which is the Julie Chan Show, because she was the one who recommended Perfectly Famous to me. And next time I'll be back with Have You Seen Me by Kate White, which is about a woman who loses her memory for 48 hours, and she arrives at her job and is told that she had not worked there for 5 years. And this one is far more intense than Perfectly Famous. So, yeah, until next time. Bye.